in one of my previous videos where I talked about some of the things that you may expect during your awakening process, one of the things that I brought up was that you may feel the need to be alone. So this is very common, and it happens kind of off and on through the awakening process. It isn't something that you want to be alone for this time and then something else happens. It's kind of an iterative process. So sometimes you just find yourself wanting to be alone, not spend time with other people. So in this video, I'm just going to talk through a few of the reasons about why this is happening. So one of the reasons this happens is because you are starting to emotionally process a bunch of things. So before you were awake, you kind of went through life, you were doing your own thing. Well, then suddenly, you start to have this new inner awareness. And so you start to think about the world differently, about yourself. You start evaluating your own internal things, what's going on, your habits and behaviors. And so that requires some downtime. So you may just find yourself needing time to just be able to, spend time and start looking at yourself, evaluating these things, and kind of that takes a lot of energy to be able to do that. So you may just want to, be alone for a little bit and kind of let yourself process this stuff. Another thing that happens is you are experiencing grief because you realize that that old life that you used to have doesn't really work for you anymore, and you haven't quite yet figured out, this new part of you, but you do experience grief because there's a part where you realize that things that you thought were true are not. And so you need to have time alone to experience grief and to process those emotions. Another thing that happens is during that process, you start to realize that your identity is changing. And I mentioned this in one of my self-awareness journal prompts about how you show up to other people and your role with other people. So this is also part of that emotional processing where you may have defined yourself a certain way, around family members, coworkers, etc., and now you're starting to change. And you need to be able to spend time alone to kind of determine, how is it that, I really identify as, is this who I really am? And so you need time to process what resonates with you, what aligns with you, and what is authentic to you. So being out and about, you can't really do that. And so a lot of this whole process is doing a lot of this inner work that really requires you to isolate and to kind of go through that. And that's why I really recommend people start journaling, because I think during this process, journaling is an excellent way to help you navigate this process. Another thing that happens is you start to become more energetically sensitive. So as you start to wake up, naturally your vibration is going to start to rise. And what happens is you become more aware of, first of all, you become more overwhelmed by crowds and noises and being around people, because as your energy rises, your nervous system has to recalibrate. And so, being out and about can be overwhelming. And another thing that can happen is that you can realize that you start to become energetically drained. Whereas before, maybe you could, listen to people, talk to people, be around crowds or whatever, but then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, every time I do that, I end up being drained. And so, it's good to spend time or, at least become more aware of your limits and how long you can be out and about before you just kind of start feeling overwhelmed. So a lot of times it's easy to just, stay at home and kind of let yourself get accumulated to your new, nervous system, let it recalibrate, because it can be overstimulating, and it may make you wonder, like, how come I can't, be out in crowds anymore? How come I don't want to be around people anymore? And that's one of the reasons it could be. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, you also, find yourself wanting to have deeper and more meaningful conversations with people. Whereas before you used to be able to hang around people and talk about, basic things and, sports or pop culture or the news or whatever's going on. And now you just feel like, this doesn't really do anything for me. Maybe it feels boring, or maybe you just don't want to be around these people anymore. That's very common to experience. And the other thing is, you may just, find yourself wanting to spend more time doing research, looking up things, reading books, watching videos, trying to have a better understanding of, all this new information that you're learning. And also, you may just find that, whereas before you really felt it connecting and energetic to be around other people, whereas now you may find that you would prefer being out in nature, or, just being able to have some downtime. And that's normal. So, like I said, this process, there's so many different things that happen, and if you find yourself wanting to be alone, there's nothing wrong with you. That's totally normal. And again, it kind of comes and goes in phases. So sometimes just say I need some downtime, and then other times, you can engage more. But it's a process. So anyway, make sure to subscribe, and if you like these types of videos, I will be continuing to go over different topics like this, such as the awakening process and much more. So make sure to subscribe so you can get more of this information as you navigate your journey. Thanks.